Hey, welcome back to Shrink Shots, where I break down therapy buzzwords in 10 minutes or less so you can actually use them in your real life. Today, we're going to talk about cognitive distortions, aka the sneaky little lies your brain tells you that might make you feel like shit. And the worst part, you don't even realize it's happening. Hey, I'm Kayla Riley, licensed therapist, entrepreneur, and mama, just trying to keep my shit together like the rest of you. Welcome to Shrink Shots, quick hit bonus episodes packed with bite-sized insights on relationships, parenting, and more. No fluff, just real talk. Let's do this. Cognitive distortions are automatic, irrational thought patterns that mess with the way you see yourself, others, and the world. Basically, your brain is taking shortcuts, but instead of helping, it's sending you straight into anxiety, self-doubt, or overreaction mode. Think of it like a funhouse mirror for your thoughts, except it's not fun and it's making you feel bad. Here are some of the biggest offenders. All or nothing thinking, like everything's either amazing or a total disaster, no in between. Example of like, if I don't do this perfectly, I'm a complete failure. Catastrophizing is jumping to the worst case scenario instantly. So making a mistake, you're definitely going to get fired. Another one is mind reading, assuming that you know what other people are thinking about you. Personalization means taking everything personal, even when it has nothing to do with you. Like a friend canceling plans. She must hate me. She doesn't. She's just tired. Should statements, living by rigid, unrealistic rules that make you feel guilty. And examples like, I should be further along in life or should be married by now. Emotional reasoning, believing that because you feel something, it must be true. An example is, I feel unlovable, so I must be unlovable. Feelings are not facts. Okay, so we've listed the different kinds of cognitive distortions, aka unhealthy filters, like Insta filters, but for your thoughts. But here's the thing, these distorted thoughts and thought patterns don't just live in our head. They create a ripple effect that influences how you feel and how you act, which impacts your life circumstances. So this is where the cognitive behavioral triangle comes in. Picture a triangle in front of you with 3 points, the top one being thoughts, the other one being feelings, the next one being behaviors. And it's a triangle, so it just keeps going around. Boom, 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 boom. Here's how it works. Your thoughts drive your emotions. So if you're stuck in a cognitive distortion, like I'll never be good enough, you're going to feel defeated, anxious, and even depressed. That filter is going to be placed on everything you experience. So that impacts the next point in the triangle, your emotions. So your emotions drive your behaviors. When you're feeling down, you might withdraw from friends, avoid opportunities, or lash out at somebody you actually really love. Then your behavior then shapes your reality. So if you keep pulling back, you avoid things, or you're reacting emotionally, you're reinforcing the original thought that you're not enough. You're proving yourself right, essentially. So even if the original thought was distorted, the way you feel and the way you behave is going to create consequences that might reinforce this unhealthy cycle. And it repeats and repeats and repeats. So let's say, for example, catastrophizing, right? If I mess up this presentation, my boss is going to think I'm incompetent. I'm going to lose my job. I don't think anyone thinks that extreme consciously, but you get it. That thought is going to make you feel anxious and panicky. The way you behave, you might procrastinate preparing your presentation, or you might rush through it because you're so anxious. And then the consequence, aka the outcome, the presentation does feel shaky, not just because then the outcome or the consequence is that the presentation does feel shaky, not because you're incompetent, but because your distorted thinking made you too anxious to prepare well or to present well. Now you've reinforced the belief that you can't do presentations. So the cycle is going to perpetuate. The good news is you can break this cycle. So when you challenge these cognitive distortions, you change the thought. And when you change the thought, you shift your emotional reaction. And when you shift the emotional reaction, you have more of an opportunity to behave differently or take different actions. And when you take different actions and you behave differently, you're going to see new results, ones that reinforce healthier, more realistic thinking. So if you catch yourself spiraling in distorted thoughts, pause and ask, what's the thought I'm having? How is it making me feel? How is this feeling influencing my behavior? We're going to talk a little bit more about practical actions that you can take. But if you break that thought, feeling, behavior cycle that takes over your life, basically, it's going to take a lot of practice. But once you start seeing the pattern, you can interrupt it and start to create a new pattern, a pattern of health and well-being. So how can you fight back, aka how to stop letting your brain play you? One is catch it. Start noticing when these thought patterns show up. Pay attention to how you're filtering your reality. Question it. Ask yourself, is this actually true? Would I say this to a friend? And then reframe it. Flip the script, and instead of saying, I'm a failure, say something like, I made a mistake, but that doesn't define me. Cognitive distortions are totally normal, but the more that you challenge them, the less power they have over you, and the more you're rewriting your neural pathways. So the next time your brain starts whispering some doom and gloom nonsense, take a second to fact check it, because just because you think it does not mean it's true. If you liked this episode, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you want more real talk on mental health, make sure you're following Not Your Therapist. See you next time on another Shrink Shot. Boom! Now you've got something to think about. If this hits home, share it with a friend or tag me on Instagram at notyourtherapist.kayla. Shrink Shots drop every Tuesday and Thursday with 10 episodes in each series. So hit follow and don't miss your next dose of no BS therapy wisdom. See you next time.